So I'll kick it off because we've got a few new faces. So I'm up here. Just for the first time, I'm bigger. For the first time, I'm taller than everyone. That's grand. So I'll kick it off. We have Simon Schlephorst, Customer Solutions Manager at Vonage, where he works with key customers and their CRM and product and development teams to ensure they drive maximum value from Vonage's solutions. Before Vonage, he was also in the industry, holding positions at IBM and other companies. And while he's focused on driving value for his customers, he's also a passionate musician. He wasn't on stage last night at the awards ceremony. That was the men in blush. But he is passionate about musicals and loves to experience them, actually having been on the stage in a couple of them as well. So it's going to be a memorable experience with you, I am sure. And welcome. We're lucky to have you on our panel today. Welcome, Simon.
Hello.
Another perhaps orchestrator, Mike Rhodes, founder of CMA agency Consult My App, which is very important because, of course, retail, the lifeline of retail is a mobile app. And his company has a goal to advance the entire mobile app ecosystem and sector for the better. His motto is simple: make every app as great as it can be. And CMA is achieving that goal because it is an award-winning app agency and has a who's who of clients in the industry, ranging from General Motors to King, Virgin Media, also some companies in the e-commerce sector. We'll be hearing about that. He's had a long experience and long track record in the industry, working in CRM and other companies before founding Consult My App in 2016. It has headquarters in London, additional offices here in Germany, and another musical one, because he doesn't sing in musicals, but he plays musical instruments, saxophone, clarinet.
We're going to do a duet. Yeah.
That's it. It's a duet down there.
We run out of time.
You've bonded. It's going to happen. So you are the orchestrator. And of course, Jörg here, our evangelist, innovation evangelist at OTTO. And we've heard Jörg talk before. If you didn't, boy, you missed it. You have to see the recording then, because he is an innovation evangelist at the helm of OTTO, working and talking about social commerce before it was cool. So that says a lot right there. A career that dates back to 1999 when you were yourself in a mail order business. You've gone from mail order to digital, and there's only one thing that Jörg is more passionate about than marketing and digital and innovation, and that is fishing. That's his sport. And it couldn't be better, I would say, because I thought to myself, well, yeah, in commerce, you have to fish where the fish are. That makes sense. So you're in the best business because it's the same business. It's about getting customers where they are, and that's in social. So it's a fit. You're totally aligned, and we're happy to have you.
Thanks.
And finally, Fabian, Ouwehand. Until today, Senior Director, Social Commerce at HSE, but now a powerhouse of social influencing on his own. We heard about that before as well. Seasoned, just got back from China, so if you want to know what's going on in conversational commerce, social commerce, he is the man. He's renowned. He's had a spot in Germany's top 100 in e-commerce by Internet World, and without a doubt, our most original on the panel. And in addition to that, everyone has something you won't read on LinkedIn. And Fabian, I don't know, I want to test you on this one, because you are a man who's consistently worn 2 different socks every day of your life. Are we going to see this? Oh my God, you do it. You walk the talk, man. Okay, well that's great. So I had to wonder, welcome, you brought your personality, absolutely. So we're here to delve into conversational commerce. What's it about? It's about messaging through Facebook Messenger and WhatsApp perhaps, but that's just the beginning and extends across the entire life cycle of the customer as well, because it's about talking to the customer and listening to the customer. It's an exciting frontier. It's something that you're going to have to also be thinking about more, because the customer is your boss. You need to be there. And as I said, an exciting frontier. So I'm going to start with you, Jörg, because that's where you are. You are an exciting frontier. That's what you do at OTTO. How are you cultivating a two-way conversation with your customers and building that engagement? Maybe you can start there.
I think we started in the very early days, and there it was more a personal discussion because we started in the mail order business, and if you want to communicate with OTTO, you were able to phone. You are still able to do that, but we added all the channels that are relevant for the customers. So I think to bond to the customers and to give them the chance to have a discussion is that they are able to talk to you on different channels where they want, and you have to be there on your channels. And if they don't want to talk with you, you have to produce other content that is sticky to your brand, that they are listening to you. So that's the reason why, for example, we do live shopping or things like that to inspire them and to give them the opportunity, if they have questions, if they want to reach something out about a product, that they can contact us very fast via chat. Mm-hmm. So I think it's not limited to the external channels like Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, or things like that. You can offer your channels, chat channels for your own, especially with the possibilities of Gen AI at the moment. That's a blast. So I think the time for stupid bots is over, and we will see more and more intelligent assistants in the retail business in future, not only in retail.
So it also involves the creator in that conversation, Fabian. And in your own presentation, you were talking about how companies, when they're starting in this direction, need to think about a back channel for the creator themselves. And really successful platforms make that possible. How are you seeing experimentation, making it a two-way experience for the customers and the creators and the brands?
Yeah, so I think, what we've done at HZ or Hase in German, so traditionally that's a teleshopping company, selling true live streams on the big screen. And I basically was responsible for the last almost 3 years in bringing that experience digital. And I think what's very interesting about that model, why I was so intrigued by the company HZ, is they sell true content and they actually sell true individuals. So the majority of our assortment is always sold through a creator. So we have creators on TV, and they kind of represent the brand and the company. And I think that's a different approach, where I think now we see the industry developing, that actually you have to leverage more individuals and creators talking about your company rather than we are the best and you listen to us or you buy for us. It's actually other people are talking about it. And I think that's where really I see the core of HZ and the live shopping business. You have this interaction with the creator, with the customer immediately, and this is now becoming much more digital. So it's really like having the individual talking about how great you are and other people how great you are rather than yourself. And I think that's even becoming more important right now. And
that's the building of the engagement. That is what it's about, because it's not always about selling. It's about getting there. That awareness, that top of funnel awareness. Now, interesting, Simon, and it's fantastic timing as well, because I'd like to hear a little bit more about what that experience needs to be. And we'll move on after that, because you have brand new data. You have a report that I wasn't even thinking would happen, where you're looking at exactly that. What do customers want and expect from conversations with their brands? But let's first start how you're defining this. Customers want to be heard. What are the other aspects of this VIP experience that our audience, these companies, need to be considering and offering?
Yeah, I think a lot of the things that we've been seeing recently are a combination of points we've mentioned before. I think one of the things you mentioned already in your intro, go fish where the fish are, I think is one of the most important things. We, as a technology provider, don't necessarily advocate for one channel or another, but the first thing to take into account is obviously finding the right one, and it's striking how crazy that can be. I think one of the most interesting cases we've seen in the past couple of years was where we worked with Aramex, a huge logistics provider in the Middle Eastern region, who have been digitizing their customer support, putting it on WhatsApp. And within just 2 years, 80% of their customer support queries came via WhatsApp. That's clearly a sign of, you know, choosing the right channel for your customers. But then also, of course, what do you offer your customers there? And this is where we come to this VIP or engagement thought, because just being there, having, like Jörg would say, a stupid bot that will maybe digitize or automate your FAQs that are also on your homepage, that's not really giving any value. And I think where we go to VIP experiences to make sure that we're there at the right time, at the right channel, but also offering functionality that is relevant to the user at that point in time. And that can be anything along that journey, from the discovery and brand building to the sale itself, to after-sales support, to loyalty and referral cases. I think we have many interesting examples there where brands can engage more on such channels to put the customer or have the customer feel to be at the center of that interaction.
So referrals of business, that's very interesting. I hinted it at the start, and maybe you have a couple of key takeaways from the report that you have, you know, which it does shed a lot of light because it's based on what people want. What's maybe one standout, surprising result that you found?
I think I found two actually very interesting. The one of also the data you're referring to, or the study you're referring to, that is the Vonage Global Customer Engagement Survey. So we, as a technology provider, obviously want to learn, you know, what are the trends, where should we also focus our product development, and we've been querying for this more than 7,000 consumers across 17 markets. And two striking outcomes of those were that, globally speaking, about 42% of customers are happy with the way that companies currently interact with them. And if we look at Germany, the number is actually only 33%. So 2/3 of customers are unhappy. And in an unrelated question, 2/3 of customers say that one or two negative experiences with a company in the form of communication, in the support that they get delivered, in the communication experience they get, is enough to trigger them to choose a different provider, choose a different retailer, choose a different company to work with. And I think that shows that getting this right, offering this VIP experience, is a chance as well as a threat. If you do it right, you can win. But if you don't, there's really a lot to lose. And I think 2/3, that was really a striking outcome for me.
That's very interesting findings. And some others, I mean, it's an entire report. I've seen it. It's about 60 pages. And it's a lot in there. We can't unpack it here, but I would really recommend checking that out over on the Vonage website. Mike, it's about the conversations we're hearing, and there is a punishment for the wrong rules of engagement. Now, the app is the brand in your hand. Nothing's going to remove that position in the user journey. What are your thoughts about what you're telling your clients? You know, an app is the lifeline for retail. You have a responsibility. You have expectations to meet, is what we're hearing here with a VIP experience. Tell me about what you're telling your clients, and maybe also what they're moving on as first steps in that journey.
Yeah, and that's a good brand in your hand. Not heard that one before. I think we might steal that. Yeah, so, you know, I guess we're talking about conversations here. You know, what does a conversation have? It's a start, an end, and a topic, and a channel for the conversation. But ultimately, you can't have a conversation with a brick wall and nobody there. So, one thing we are seeing, we do know, is that the greater the conversation and engagement, you've got to have a topic which is engaging. You can't just spam people with buy. You know, we've heard about how important the creative and engaging content is to opening and having a meaningful conversation. The key thing here, though, is that, you know, the conversation has to happen on a channel that the customer wants it to happen on. And the one thing we are seeing in retail is a significant transition, certainly of marketing spend, from retailers moving away from bricks and mortar, moving away from digital, and when I say digital, I mean web and mobile web, and actually starting to move that towards the app world. And the app is becoming intrinsically essential to retailers now. I spoke to a very, very large US retailer. I won't name them because they probably didn't want this sharing, but yesterday, and they were telling me actually their bricks and mortar is down 20% year on year. Their digital web was down, I think, about 16% over year on year, 23 versus 22. The app actually increased by 4%. And that, to me, tells a very interesting story that the app is where the conversations are happening that mean the most, that is generating an increased LTV. So when it comes to engagement and conversation, you know, having a conversation with someone that you can always open up because everybody always has their phone with them, you know, investing and doubling down on your app presence is essential. Look at Shein, you know, amazing app brand. They've absolutely nailed app engagement and conversation. They know how to do it. And not just in the app world, you know, outside we saw in Jörg's presentation this morning some great examples of how they're leveraging social. Temu, great app. You know, these guys are doing it right, and they're making ridiculous amounts of money because there is nobody else competing with them at that level in the app land. And there's billions of potential people there. You know, the footfall is ridiculously high in app world, in the Play Store, in the App Store, and then, you know, out in China, there's lots of other stores, OTTO and Baidu. But ultimately, we're seeing a big transition to having those conversations through the mobile app world. And that, to me, is where it gets exciting because we're leveraging all the technology of apps and all the available data you've got because you have an insane amount of data in comparison to a web visitor or web session. You know, leveraging that, making it personal, meaningful, and continuing that conversation, that's driving repeat purchases, you know, for you know, the Macy's, the Papa John's of the world, the Zoo Plus, you know, the Autoscats. These guys are doing it, and they're doing it well, and they're seeing a real return on that investment. So, yeah, for me, a long answer, but, you know, ultimately, if you get conversation going and get it right on your phone, through a really solid app setup, not just a web view when you're embedding the content in it, that's awful, but doing it properly, you know, building a nice native experience and having a meaningful conversation, which isn't just sell, buy, you know, it's returning, you know, really good dividends for our retail clients. So it's more our retail clients are telling us this rather than we're telling them. But
you make a good point because that's also my favorite part of the quantum marketing book that is my required reading, which is about serving, not selling. It's about perhaps priming people to a purchase, but not necessarily. Now, Jörg, you also have, you know, you have your app. You've gone now to an Apple TV app. So you see that, I believe the same as Mike, as being very center. But what's the center, the primary focus? What's the primary value that you're trying to drive?
To bringing them to the application or what we are doing at OTTO?
Well, the value to the customer, you know, it's an example of the engagement, but then it's also very difficult to spark a conversation that's going to lead to sales, but you don't want to say that directly. It's more the entertainment, more the engagement.
Yeah, from the social commerce part, yes, it is, because the added value for the customers in that area is that it's like shoptainment, we call it. So it's a mix between entertainment and getting advice, have the possibility to have a conversation with a company, or sometimes, normally we do live shopping shows with brands together, and then you are able to ask questions to us, maybe logistics questions, and then you have special product questions, and you can ask that to the experts of the brand that are with us. So, and we are bringing all that, especially through the app, because you have native features there. It's easier to get access to the live shopping, to offer the stream, to offer all the services around that. And so for us, it's very important that customers install the app, because it's like bondage. It's only one touch away, so you don't need a browser or something else. And with services or formats like live shopping, we get the people to our app. And for us, one very important feature is that we are normally then allowed to send some push notifications, not only for Office, but also for live shopping. So we are now live with Miele, Apple, or things like that, and make them an offer to consume that content, to use the possibility to ask questions and things like that. So you are totally right. It's not only selling, it's being there, offer service, be there for questions, help the people to find the right products, the right partners at our marketplace. And I think, we talked about stupid bots. I think in future we will see more and more shopping assistants that helps us to fulfill that service to the customers. But I hope and I think there will also be really people on the phone if you want to call them.
Just going to add, Jörg talks about push notifications. Everyone thinks of push as a one-directional ping of text. Push is way, way more than that. And on Android, actually, it's insane what you can do with a push notification. You know, you'll have seen like Uber's push. It's got interactive elements. You know, you can actually use it to open a conversation and have a response back from a user without them even going into the app. So, you know, talk about conversations. You can actually start them through push notifications. You know, there is so much in there. You can have interactive video, carousels of products in there, deep linked buttons and action buttons in push notifications. You can have a meaningful conversation through just a bloody push notification. I mean, you don't even need the app. So these are technologies that are out there. They're being leveraged by very, very few companies. And, you know, it's our job to democratize that and make sure all retailers are using, you know, the stuff that's there, the technology that's there, it's available, it's accessible, it's easy enough to do if you know what you're doing. And opening up conversations with their customers in that way, you know, it's simple. It just increases LTV, it increases repeat purchase, drives install to registration to first purchase. All of these things are eminently possible and possible to do them a lot better than the way 95% of companies are doing them these days through technology that's actually been around for about 5 years. You know, 5 years ago, all of this push technology was available, and it's just still not being leveraged, with the exception of, you know, companies like OTTO that are actually, you know, leveraging it in a more sophisticated way.
So what I'm hearing here is that there's a lot of untapped opportunities, some blue oceans. I mean, Simon, maybe you can weigh in on that, because it seems that this is closer. We're closer to a conversational approach to commerce than we think, and there are baby steps or beginning steps that you can take.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, and I found that, for example, a very fascinating example with the push messages and the interactive content in them. It's something where we are working a lot with customers on interactivity, not in push messages, but for example within flows on chat messengers, WhatsApp being one of the prime examples. Obviously, you knew that was coming. And I think the interesting part here is that just sticking with the topic of WhatsApp, it has two possible advantages. The one is that for companies who maybe as a brand aren't strong enough to have someone download their app, that can be an alternative where many of these things can happen just within a chat flow. We have the same things like, you know, carousels for switching through products, interactivity, choosing from lists, clicking buttons, all these kind of things. And the other thing, and that actually leads me to a custom example, is that this can be a channel that can be used to then bring people to your app. So the example I'm talking about here is Holiday Pirates, Urlaubspiraten for those in the German market. Started off as a huge brand on Facebook by finding the best travel deals for people who want to travel cheaply. And they came up with that idea to have it as a sort of WhatsApp newsletter where they would be able to inform people more timely and use pushes, in that case WhatsApp pushes, but still make people aware of content of great deals just in time. And then that has evolved into something that goes, I think, a lot along the lines of what you were saying about the value of apps. What they've been doing regularly and quite successfully is not just pushing out content and saying, hey, we got some news for you, here's a great deal, but actually make this like interactive little quizzes, asking people, hey, what do you actually prefer? Would you want to go to the beach, or do you want to do a city trip? Do you want to stay in Europe, or do you want to go overseas? And these kind of things not only create interactivity and touch points and give user that feeling of I'm in control what's actually happening here. The other thing is, and I think we haven't mentioned that enough, is that each of these conversations is an opportunity to learn. Because you actually understand customer preferences on the one side, and you understand customer reactivity. So which of those people that are following my brand, for example on WhatsApp, but also on any other channel, are the ones that really want to see that content, that really interact with it, and that are maybe also users that I want to focus more of my marketing spend on, because I know that that's going to drive a lot more return on investment for me. And I think that's a great example. Another one, actually a feature that we built just with them to promote that WhatsApp channel was to say, well, if we put the user at the center of the conversation, why don't we sort of turn them into brand ambassadors by referring the channel itself? One of the problems we often get asked with WhatsApp is, isn't it crazy expensive? And in a way it can be, you know, you pay for a 24-hour conversation window, which is kind of expensive compared to other marketing channels, but then in that window you can send as much as you want. But we're kind of flipping this around by asking their followers, in exchange for the chance to win a prize, some fancy holiday, you know, $4,000 travel to the Maldives, sounds great, everybody wants to win that, to refer that WhatsApp channel to their friends and family. And we built this in a way that this entire referral stays within WhatsApp up to the point that if your friends and family actually sign up, you get another WhatsApp message confirming this to you. So we built the feature in itself in a way that drives as many touch points and reminders as possible. And the success of that was crazy. Within just 2 weeks, they accompanied it with a social media campaign, but within 2 weeks, they got more than 200,000 followers for a WhatsApp channel, and more than half of that was driven by the actual referral itself. And those are then cases where, you know, your existing followers bring other followers to that channel, and you don't even have to pay that marketing conversation to WhatsApp anymore, because it's other people recommending you, right, and driving that conversation, having people sign up. So I think we're seeing some possibilities for multipliers here that will enable brands to really go a lot deeper in terms of what conversations and interaction can I offer, which people can I even tap into, and then whether your ultimate goal is to have people convert or sell something to them in that channel, which is possible, even though I know Jörg argues WhatsApp's not a great channel for that. Let's see with the advance of MetaPay if that will change. But your ultimate goal could just as well be to just have that as a touch point, lead people to the app. I think the possibilities there are limitless, and in Germany we're just seeing the start.
Well, that's just it, the possibilities. We're hearing about untapped opportunities in Android, referrals. You're both experimenting at a different level. Maybe you can share a little bit, Jörg, where you are experimenting, sort of stretching the definition of conversational commerce. And I'll ask the same question of you in a moment, because I know you are, Fabian. But I'll start with you.
I hope he starts.
He's going to have an interesting answer, yes.
I think we want to be there where the customers are. So you mentioned our Apple TV app, so that we go the other way around than you with HSE, because yes, live shopping is the idea. I think it comes from classical teleshopping and goes to the small screen. The positive things are that you can do conversations there. So if you see on the big screen, you have to phone or search online. If you have it on your mobile, on your website, you are able to click the products directly and then go to the conversation. Then we recognize that we have great content, and you talked about stretching. We want to stretch it on the big screen because we said, okay, that's valuable content for big screen. For us at home, that is our first screen. We are sitting on the couch. Yeah. There is a documentary or a stupid Netflix series that's running, or maybe shoptainment content. So that's the reason why we said, okay, if we have content for the big screen, make it easy to get access to that. So we added an Apple TV app to our portfolio that is at the moment limited to live shopping. Maybe we stretch that also to other possibilities to do commerce on the big screen, we want to add solutions, apps, or direct integrated solutions in the operating systems of television manufacturers to be on the big screens. We are thinking about stretching our business maybe to TikTok Shop, because if the people want to get inspired there, we want to give them the opportunity to shop there. We cannot force them to go to our shop and buy there. Maybe it would be better for us for the provision or something like that, but from the customer perspective, it doesn't make sense. So you have to be there where your customers are, and you have to look why the customers are there. So why, if they are on TikTok to get inspired and they get inspired to short form videos, okay, you have to be there, but you can think about, okay, maybe I can take that short form videos to my shop, also to my own application, because for us as OTTO or other retailers, it's more valuable if they go directly to your channel. So be there where your customers are. You have to stretch your business there, but on the other hand, you have to look why your customers are on that channels, and maybe you can adapt something of that channels to your own channels.
Mm-hmm. Were you experimenting, Fabian? You're smiling. It must be something interesting, and you're just back from China. How are you stretching that definition to suit this exchange?
Yeah, so basically in our business, creators are at the core. So I said it in my talk before as well. We kind of stretch the creator across every single touch point. I think in social commerce, what's a very popular term in China, and I don't think it's used in the best way here in the West enough, is basically you have a term, it's called private traffic and public traffic. And I always, when I'm in Berlin and I speak about it, I always use the example from Berghain, right? So you have Berghain, the nice club. The queue outside of Berghain is public traffic. People want something with it, but they're not in it yet. And the private traffic is the people in Berghain, and they're very proud to share about that they were in Berghain. And that attracts basically more public traffic again. And this is kind of, the public traffic and private traffic is a very important topic within social commerce. And if you zoom this a little bit out in giving a very practical example how we apply this. So we had a live shopping app where we did live streams together with creators. It's very, very, very expensive to bring people from a social media platform to download an app. You have a huge drop-off, and it's extremely expensive to do this. So what we figured out is like, okay, how can we get people, because we have anyways this topic from public traffic to private traffic, how can we incorporate the creator in a way that we can do this most efficient with as low budgets as possible? So what we basically done is we did a live stream on both TikTok and as well as in our app at the same time. TikTok Shop doesn't exist yet, so we leverage TikTok for the public traffic, and we try to convert them to the private traffic, which is basically the traffic in our app. What we saw there, if you have the right creator who's able to balance social and commerce, or the entertainment and the commerce part in the right way, we had an extremely high conversion rate in the private traffic in the app. So what we saw, for instance, is we had 80,000 viewers on TikTok, we had a couple thousand people downloading our app, and then we could even hit up conversion rates of like 25%, 1 out of 4 people buying directly in that live stream. And we basically could push traffic back from TikTok all the time back in our app. Here are the real fans, here's the real community, and people are actually buying there. And that's where we got 25% conversion rate, completely generated organically on the traffic of the creator. And this is, I think, something we replicated, and it works with different creators. We basically pay the creator just to do the live stream. We could distribute on the different platforms, could get very cheaply downloads, and have a 25% plus conversion rate, direct checking out while watching the live. And I think this is where really the potential is, I believe, rather than the e-commerce when you would run ads and so on, and you get your 2% or 3% conversion rate. We basically captured everything, and the nice thing about downloading the app, you can re-engage with them as they've been speaking before. And this is kind of the way how we're stretching this through the creator. We're leveraging the touch points, and then really try to optimize on every step, that it becomes efficient to actually run marketing and as well as commerce.
It's very interesting. Is there a wash, rinse, repeat in this? I'm wondering, Mike, when you hear an example like that and you're thinking, how can I get organic differently? How can that translate into an app conversion? And we're hearing a very interesting approach that is experimental but also affordable, it sounds.
So it's quite interesting. I don't know, I've got fishing stuck in my head now. And if I draw it back to a fishing analogy, if the customer's a fish, you imagine that, and bear with me, but you've got to talk to the fish before you catch them. You can't. They don't just jump on the fishing rod and say, "Eat me, eat me." But in order to talk to the fish, you've got to be in the right pond or lake or sea. And if you're not in that sea or that lake with a boat to catch those fish, there's no point. You're never going to catch them. So it's our clients come to us and say, look, we're aware of this sea called the App Store, or this lake called the Play Store, or this pond called the Huawei App Gallery or Oppo Gallery. How do I catch the fish in there? How am I supposed to be there? The first thing is you've got to have a boat. So you've got to have your app, essentially, is the boat in that sense. And then you've got to make that boat enticing. You've got to make it so the fish want to come towards you. How do you attract the fish towards that boat? And the way you do that in the mobile app world, at the very least, is App Store optimization. So that's all about making your boat look shiny, making it visible. It's got a big light on it. All the fish are going, wow, it's an amazing boat. I need to go up there and have a fishy conversation with it. And that's ultimately what our clients are doing and are asking us to enable them to do is, look, we want to play in this sea. How do we do it effectively? So you open that conversation through App Store optimization, which is really the first touch point for a lot of people that are looking for an app that sells electronics or fashion or whatever it might be. They're in the stores looking for that. Once you've opened that conversation, it then becomes a game of how do you keep that conversation going until you convert that fish into a first purchase or registration or whatever it might be. And that then becomes a job really for your engagement platform. And I think one of the challenges that we see across, not just retail, but a lot of more traditional businesses is that engagement platform that customers are using it's been built for web. And it does a great job at web in terms of, in-web messages, interstitials, emails, SMS, but it doesn't do a great job for mobile. In mobile, it might just send push, and even then, it's just basic push. It doesn't do in-app messages, it doesn't do app inbox, it doesn't do content or interactive content, which, by the way, is a wonderful opportunity for retailers to change content in the app dynamically. But that is one of the big challenges. I think getting the right engagement technology there. Once you do that, then you can have meaningful conversations with those fish and ultimately get the fish ready to be served up in a nice buttery sauce.
Well, that's a great segue, actually, Mike, because I was thinking, and I took the question to social media, just LinkedIn, nothing super cool here. And I said, what should I be asking Fabian, but also OTTO, about the rules of engagement? What is a no-go in this? Because there's a lot of feeling that there needs to be a balance between the entertainment and the education. Now, you showed that really well, because that was mind-blowing that you can sell a chainsaw on social because it's about education, actually. So maybe we're maybe underestimating the value of that. Tell me about the rules of engagement, Fabian, if there's a focus we're missing or a no-go that we need to pay attention to. Because it can't just be the fast images. There has to be something behind it.
Yeah, exactly. So I think I'm always coming from the creator point of view, right? Because that's how we drive everything with social commerce. So for us, what was the most hard to do, and we have been still struggling until this day, and I think this will take a long time to figure out, what is the right balance between commerce and entertainment?
Yeah.
And if you are completely out of balance, it can be very, very expensive for you as a company because you just don't drive conversions. And it's a lot on the individual, for instance, where you do a live stream with, how good that individual is. So what we've seen, we did teleshopping. So we have actually, I think, the best people in the market who know how to sell. So it's a lot about the fundamentals of selling, and some of those people, so at HSE you have someone called Judith Williams. Yeah. They were built up from the ground up at HSE, and she's now a successful entrepreneur doing over 100 million every single year in just selling through live streams, right? On TV. So I think it's really about the right balance between entertainment and commerce. What's the hardest, and this is, I think, different than what I see in China, and we have been struggling with. We figured it out now with certain creators, where I said we have these cases, 25% conversion rate from a creator who's new to this. The entire influencer creator industry is driven by advertising, meaning it's all entertainment first. They do this on TikTok, on Instagram. It's all driven by entertainment. And now you have to tell a creator, we also expect you to sell. And they're like, why should I sell? Because I already make 5,000 euro by just promoting it. Why would I sell? And this was actually the hardest part to trying to find this balance. And that's what we did, what I just explained earlier in my previous talk as well. We make the creator as part of the entire customer journey. So for them to understand how is a business run, and you can benefit on every single step. And we educated, we created an entire academy, we train creators on how to actually be a bit more commerce driven and not just talk about the weather and so on, because that's what they're used to on the TikTok live stream, right? So if you have to explain them like, yeah, it's actually about the chainsaw or something like this, it's like, yeah, but what should I do with it? How can I sell it? So it's a lot of education, but also having just the right creator. So it's, you need to trial and error, I think, for your brand, what works. And you need to do this ideally with as low cost as possible, because it can get very quick, very expensive working with these people.
I like that, Fabian. You unlock our inner creator, our inner, in your case, it's also a balance. How do you approach that? Is there a no-go, or is there something that, people in our audience, as they go out there and try to imitate this success in their own companies, something they must do or something they should not do?
Starting with the bad thing, stupid selling, I think doesn't make sense. So the people will go out of the stream. So because it's not valuable, so then it's only in video ads that it's running for 30 minutes. Nobody would care about that. So that's a really no-go. What you should do is, like Fabian mentioned, or I in my keynote, finding the right people. Who are the right people? For me, benchmark is teleshopping. Judith, for example, Kati Konrads, people like that. Because they have learned for years how to sell via video things you want or you not want, but you will buy it. So they are perfect in selling things on the screen. So that are the benchmarks. And it's a long way. So very interesting thoughts about an own academy and things like that. We had examples with mixing different people. So on the one hand, an expert about the product. He's not a selling person, but he's very good in that product. And a moderator that is educated to asking the right questions, to doing more the selling stuff, and let's work them together. Sometimes it fits, sometimes not. So it's all about finding the right people in front of the cameras, and they have to find, and that are the good people that are finding that balance between selling and entertainment. So that's why if you do it good, it's shoptainment. We are selling people stuff, and they didn't catch it because they love to be entertained and to be educated about the products. And so that is the advice. Think you are interested in a category, maybe to buying a chainsaw, and then bringing them in very entertaining video directly from the forest, where you explain different chainsaws and the pros and the cons. And maybe you give an additional discount, and after that they will buy, because it was fun to them to listen and get educated on an entertainment way, and hopefully all their questions are solved, and then they are happy to buy because they know what they want to buy.
But it is a conversation, Simon, and product is the new marketing, as well as marketing being part of that. It goes in both directions. How could a company, or how should a company design their communications to be more human-centric, to encouraging, to cultivating this conversation? And above all, the real important point, repeat visits and ultimately purchases. Because we're going to get to metrics in a moment. How do you construct that, or how do you see some best practice you could share?
Yeah, I think the things that we're seeing with our customers currently kind of touches on what both Fabian and Jörg have a little bit said of striking that balance right between being entertaining, informative, but also doing functions that serve the direct purpose of commerce. And I think that is a question that is also very channel specific. I guess on video channels, you have completely different opportunities than on text-based channels to do that. And to be engaging there and making customers want to even return to that channel or ask themselves the question, or ideally not ask themselves the questions, why do I even watch this? Is I think the point that you got to get right. And this can be, I think, a great door opener if you are someone like Holiday Pirates, to return to that example, because travel is an emotional topic, right? If you manage to get that kind of newsletter in the sense where people like to watch it because it's inspiring your dreams, where's my next vacation going to go, where I'm going to sit with my loved ones on a beach next month, obviously that is the kind of content that people intrinsically like to receive. It's going to be a lot harder, I think, if you're a chainsaw brand. I don't see that working on WhatsApp. So I think getting that right in the first place, maybe there you need to be, if you want to catch people at all, more on the informative side and striking that balance. And at the same time, like I think we pointed to here and there before, is do I actually get something out of that transaction? Can it fulfill some purpose for me? And this can be something, you know, even on the completely different side of the sales cycle and after sales. If I contact a company about my lost order, about, I don't know, I want to change the delivery date or location, then I think we're now getting tools that can be very helpful here with all of these generative AI trends. Obviously, we now have a tool that can answer these kind of requests a lot more smoothly, a lot more meaningfully, but at the same time, generative AI is not the answer to that question. It needs to be connected to your core systems to be able to fill those functions, right? Just having something ChatGPT says, hi, okay, I understand, you want to change your delivery location, that doesn't do anything. It needs to feed back, which is why we're, for example, looking a lot at integrating those kind of chatbots or ideally intelligent assistants, as we called them before, really to your Salesforce, to your CRM, to your fulfillment providers, to your Shopify or Magneto or whatever you name it, to make sure that from that conversation on a text-based channel, actual functionality, actual value to the user can be delivered. And then you create those positive touch points that's going back to the data we quoted before, make your customers really want to stay with the brand because it's a positive experience that fulfills a purpose and not a negative experience that makes them look for someone better.
Mm-hmm. So I wanted to talk now about another area, just maybe a little bit of rapid fire down here, because again, there was the question of the metrics. What do you measure? We heard from TikTok that it's about a new type of funnel. It's more infinite, and awareness and purchase and all of that sort of blend together. So then maybe there are blended metrics as well that companies need to pay attention to, because it's not just going to be, I do this and I measure that. Maybe just take it down from like, what can companies measure? What do you measure at OTTO to understand if you're on the right track? You only know if you're going to be successful if you're measuring KPIs that are relevant.
Yeah, I think especially if you're looking to conversion rates, you will see maybe that the conversion rate in your application, in your apps is higher than on website or mobile. So compare the conversation rates from different channels, and then you know how much you can invest to get successful on their channels, because on the long run you know how successful the traffic will be in future. So the private traffic you have then, you can calculate that. And sometimes it's not only a KPI like at live shopping. So our KPI is now on the retail media side. So a live show for us is successful as the moment we sell it, because we sell it to our brands or marketing partners. So change the point of view. Sometimes as we started with live shopping, we thought we have to look at the KPI revenue. Yeah, we will do that, and it's good also. But our new KPI is selling shows, so it's and the number of shows. So sometimes you can start a project on a different way, then it's successful later, and you have to be aware on that.
Any other views on KPIs, success metrics to share?
You want to go first?
You go on, I'll not talk about fish this time.
No more fish. No, just kidding.
You know, we talk about something called sustainable growth at Consult My App. And sustainable growth is something that everybody in this room, unless you happen to be part of the Silicon Valley set, and in which case I apologize in advance, but will be familiar with sustainable growth because it's about profitability and scalability. Weirdly, in the mobile app world, that wasn't front of mind for the last 10, 15 years. They focused on MAU. It was all about how many monthly active users have you got, what growth have you got. And what that ultimately culminated in the explosion of Silicon Valley Bank and all this reduction and withdrawal in venture capital funding, which is has massively come back. Has massively drawn back because they were overly focused on the wrong metrics. They were just focused on how many users can they get to install the app, how many users are coming back. That, whilst that's an interesting metric and a level of engagement, it neglects what I would say is the primary metric, and that is the dollar or the euro or the pound. That's the metric really that ultimately, whatever you do as a business, assuming you aren't backed by hundreds of millions of dollars of free capital, you know, you've got to make a profit at some point. Whatever you're doing has to turn a profit. And the one metric I would always say to our clients is, look, whatever you're doing, yes, it may well drive engagement, it may well improve the conversion rate, but how much is it improving that, and how much is it delivering in terms of, you know, money back to the business? And so I as boring and as obvious and as silly a statement as it is, you know, the key metric that I have to keep reminding our clients in the app world, particularly the mobile first and mobile only brands that have only ever known mobile, is, you know, what's the bottom line doing? Like, what ultimately are you generating in terms of money? And that is what I would say is the key metric for me. It's got to be profitability. And whatever you're doing has got to be scalable. There's no point in spending $5 to make $10 and that's as big as you're ever going to get. You know, then you're not really a scalable business. It's got to be scalable and you've got to set yourself up in that way. It's very boring, very data-driven, very pragmatic, but that's the way we look at it. We're sort of combining the cool Silicon Valley ethos and excitement and bringing it down to earth at CMA, and unfortunately that's what we do. But that's why we have very happy clients that sit with us, and it you know, it just has to be measured in terms of money.
Well, we've had a deep dive. The organizer said you've got experts on this panel. Go into the depth, go into the weeds. I want to wrap up with 2 quick questions from each of you. What do companies need to continue doing because they're on the right track with regards to conversational commerce, or if you want to look at live shopping, and what do they need to start doing immediately? So I'll start with you, Jörg, and we'll just go down the line.
Start looking in social commerce and be prepared. It will be a blast in the next months.
So just do it. Go on with it.
All right. I think I said it in my previous call as well. I think social commerce is all about the mindset. So I think for every e-com company, how can we make people share? Like, how can we... So it's all about the mindset and trying to integrate that within the different departments in your organization. It's not so much like it's just live shopping. That's just like a future or a result. It's all about the mindset. So I think it's more like, how can we integrate and incorporate it?
Okay. Simon.
Yeah, I think keep going is to invest and experiment in that space, but obviously experiments can only be successful if you have something to measure on. And we've been talking about the value of positive experience, positive touch points, and I think one of the things that was going to be my point on the KPIs, is that these interactive or conversational approaches allow you to analyze customer sentiment within that conversation. And that can be a great way to evaluate how valuable, or at least how positive, those conversations and touch points actually are to your customer. And that would be my call here. If you don't do that yet, that is something to start doing, because learning about which of these things are perceived as positive, that's going to be, I think, a huge success driver going forward.
Perfect. Mike, you have the last word.
Cool. Well, I am a little biased, and apologies, because I only talk about apps because that's what I know. I'm not qualified to sit up here and talk about TikTok or web presences. But ultimately, I would say, everybody in the room, if you don't have a specific strategy to grow and develop your mobile app this year, I would absolutely suggest that you go away and build something around that. Figure out how you plan to grow that, because ultimately that is where growth will happen in 24 and beyond. And right now is the time to really focus on that. And I'd say certainly from what we're seeing in the market, a lot of large retail brands are starting to turn that way. So right now is the time to really invest in marketing in the app and really invest in building out that app growth strategy.
Excellent. I want to thank you for your insightful answers, above all, your first-hand experience and expertise, and thank our panel.